Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our 240th Right and Left Discussion Forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political dialogue. Today, our panel will respond to the question, who needs a constitution anyway? Today's discussion begins with Patty Haskins, former member of the Wadsworth City Council and the faculty of Wadsworth Senior High, followed by Bryan Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services, and Tom Finley, retired vice president of human resources at Rubbermaid Incorporated. Patty, historically, the reason for having a constitution has been to limit the power of government. Does this mean that the Constitution was a failure?
Oh, absolutely not. And I really question whether it is in order to limit government as more that the Constitution provides us a guideline or an outline which to follow as far as running our government. I mean, if you look at what the Constitution does, I mean, it sets up the branches of government, what each will do, the type of laws and things that are, things that are legal, things that are illegal, how the government is to be run, how officers are selected. And we all need that type of planning for that organization to run smoothly. I mean, I've never belonged to an organization even that didn't have a constitution that it is to follow, because that is that constitution that tells you how to run your organization. You know, for example, I'm president of our women's club here in Wadsworth, and we have a constitution that follows. And it makes it easy for us to determine and do things the same every year so that we know who is elected officers or how they are elected, the objectives and aims of the organization. And so that you don't have the group running all over the place doing all sorts of things. The U.S. Constitution, provides us things like the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has the duty of determining whether a law or action taken by a citizen or Congress is constitutional. And then they can codify those rules into law. Now, the problem that comes with the Constitution is your interpretation of it. And that is the job of the Supreme Court to interpret it. When that Constitution was first written, we had strict constructionists and loose constructionists, those that felt that you had to take the Constitution word for word as what it was said and not expand it to mean anything else. Then there are others that felt that there was some leeway in the Constitution. Now, I do not tend to be a strict constructionist, because if I were, then there would have been no need for all of the amendments that we have. Certain Americans would only be considered 3/5 of a person. I would not be able to vote as a female. These are the things that the amendments allow for. And it is that Constitution that supplies that method by which you adopt amendments so that it is done equally and fairly. And we have to trust those writers of the Constitution that they had the wisdom and foresight to write a document that is useful and is going to proceed as a useful document that will make this a great country. Actually, I would say that the only country that doesn't need a constitution would be a dictatorship. I mean, in a dictatorship, you've got one person who decides everything. And without that constitution, which divides powers up amongst the people and different branches of government and gives rights to the states, we would have one person in power domineering over everyone. And we all see how in a country such as Russia or in China, where this leads to no good.
When I think about in the 18th century, the 18th century.
Yeah.
Only white male property owners were allowed to vote.
Right.
and that for some reason the writers of the Constitution felt like we were going to have more responsible government, more responsive government, if that were the case. Now we've included an awful lot of other people to the point where now New York City wants to give the vote to illegal aliens that have a work permit. I'm just
And I
wondering.
think other states have done that already. I think that was already put up in California, and it's for local elections, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, only.
Bryan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think Patty's done a good job of summarizing why we need a constitution. I'm in full agreement. I don't think you really have a country unless you have a constitution, and there are ways to amend the constitution, and it's been done. We have the Bill of Rights, we have other amendments. So it is a document that can be changed, but it takes effort to change it. The Ohio Constitution just recently was put up, the amendment was put up on an issue, and it failed. So they have to go back to the drawing board. It's not meant to be an easy document to amend. And it amazes me that, this document was written, what was 1780 or something like that. And it has stood the test of time. I think it's the only constitution of all the constitutions of all the other countries that has really lasted that long. And the first thing that dictators do is they suspend the Constitution. They stop following the Constitution as far as how long that they can serve. Putin and some of these dictators in South America, they basically gut the Supreme Court, or they put the military in charge and all that kind of stuff. So they circumvent all that kind of stuff to get around their constitution, or they write another constitution. So I don't think you really have a country without a constitution. And I think the Constitution of the United States is a great blueprint for any other country that is looking to really have staying power in the world to copy. Yes, there were some flaws in it, but they were corrected as time goes on through the amendment process. I'm sure there'll be other amendments that are offered, but it's not meant to be changed willy-nilly. And it's a difficult process, and it's meant to be difficult. And that's what some people don't understand, because they run afoul of it, or they're trying to, I guess, manipulate the Constitution, and it doesn't fit their narrative. Next thing you know, they start screaming that it's not fair, and they need to do that, and they need to do that, and it's too hard. That's the way it was designed, and I think it should stay that way. I don't want anybody to come up and mess with that document so that they can just have their own way. So I think it's paramount to the success of our government, how it was laid out, how it works, and it's worked for us for several hundred years, and it'll work for us as long as we can live up to it for another several hundred years. So yeah, I don't see any reason why we need to go in and tinker with it. We can do it through the amendment process, and it's meant to be difficult. So if you really feel strongly about your issue, throw up an amendment and see if you can get enough people to sign that petition and take it to the voter. So,
the one place, you mentioned about what a dictator does when they first come in. There was a lot of concern with Netanyahu recently, because he has been trying to overthrow the courts within the country. Now, fortunately, he was not able to do that. At least he hasn't been able to do that so far. But there were many that were looking upon that as the fact that he was trying to get rid of the Constitution and give himself more power. And we have to be aware of these situations and fight back against them.
Yeah.
Well, I think he had a problem with the Knesset being too divided and too rigid. Tom, what are your thoughts?
I would just kind of second the motion, or the discussion that you brought to us, Bryan. The Constitution has stood the test of time, and the test of change that has been meaningful and necessary. And the fact that those two things are true and can be shown and proven demonstrates the strength. And I am amazed that the founders had the wisdom to start the Constitution and make those provisions that have allowed us to move forward with change, relatively simple, if I can use that, in the face of all the changes that are occurring within our democracy. So I think it is a tribute to our success as a country, and the protection of that needs to be a priority of any president and any member of Congress.
This is kind of an open question, but how did we get to the point with this Constitution that has stood the test of time, where we're likely to have a choice of president in November of two people that nobody likes either one of them? How'd that happen?
Well, someone likes them because they voted for them.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that's the Constitution that did that.
No,
It's
I'm
just
not
who
either.
has, it is more part of the party politics of individuals and that have done that.
There's no upper age limit on serving as the president. There is a lower age limit, but there's no upper age limit. And maybe that needs to be an amendment. Maybe we need to put something in there that says, you know what, when you hit the ripe old age of 75, you can no longer, run for president. Pilots, I think most airlines at 65, they recognize that your abilities to, think quickly and pilot, some would argue that case, but they have that in place. 65, you pretty much have to retire. A lot of companies have that. So maybe there needs to be an amendment that says, so that we don't get ourselves in this bind, this election from hell, because they've polled everybody, 65% of the electorate, they don't want either one of them.
Yes.
They don't want Biden and they don't want Trump, And so the podcast that I listened to they basically said 2024 is an election from hell because nobody likes who they're going to have to vote for. So you can argue that all day long, but maybe there needs to be an upper limit,
Yeah, the interesting thing on that is that there have been age requirements on many jobs for years, but they've been eroded away because it was considered to be age discrimination. And that lifespan, it is, and lifespans have changed over the years. So what was a reasonable age 50 years ago may not be the same as it is now. So a lot depends upon the age. And if you're doing it for president, I think you would need to also look at senators. You would need to look at congressmen. You would need to look at Supreme Court justices, for heaven's sake. I mean, we've had cases in the Senate where they've literally wheeled people in, and I've seen this, and this is not a particular party that's doing it, but there have been, in just the last couple of years, one senator I can think of in particular, who really didn't know what was going on, and her vote was determined by the people sitting behind her, telling her that she had to vote. And that's not good.
No,
I don't know that age should be a problem. People of really advanced age are very, very sharp, some of them. It's a question of cognitive ability.
Yeah, agreed.
Maybe there could be multiple, maybe we could talk to our human resources professional here and say, maybe there should be multiple triggers, multiple things. It's like, okay, age, then you need to do a cognitive test. You need to be able to walk up the stairs of Air Force One without tripping over yourself. You need to be able to do multiple things that show that is the most stressful job. When you look at the picture of the president when he comes in and when he leaves, he has aged, all of them. He has
Yeah.
aged considerably. It is a 24/7, 365-day-a-year job, and it's constant pressure. And I really don't believe, I think 2 terms is enough. I mean, that's enough. And I think you just really have to look at that, because it takes it out of you. I mean, you're spent. So
Tom, as a human resources executive, don't you think that there should be some kind of a measure of cognitive ability rather than just an age limit?
I think I'm going to skip that just for a second and say, I think what needs to be addressed is the fact, I believe only 53% of the population voted the last election. There needs to be a look at, when is it validated? How many people should have voted to make it a valid constitution, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the problem is right now, as far as I'm concerned, with our political system. It's in danger because we have a decreasing number of people who are voting or who are paying attention. It allows for a poor quality of candidate in offices to be elected.
Well, now, isn't that a question of the Constitution to eliminate the irresponsible voters? Try to find a way to measure that.
Well, find a way to measure it until we're pretty close to having a minority voting and establishing the constitutional and the preservation of the Constitution.
Yeah, well, some of us would think that was 53% was too many, but
Yeah, it's, and when you talk about the majority, when you look at the number of presidents in modern history that have been elected without the majority of the votes because of the electoral college system, playing devil's advocate, as John was saying, though, are we really sure we want everybody to vote? Do we want the person that is uninformed, who just goes in there and picks their choice for office by what letter their name starts with, or what astrological sign they are?
Oh, come on now, Patty. That's a stretch.
You've got to be kidding. No, there are people that vote that way.
But the problem is that would be considered, instead of a poll tax, it would be a poll test. I know people that come here that for citizenship have to take a test. From what I understand, it's a citizenship test. And it's basic government. Name the 3 branches of government. It kills me when these people go out on Instagram. It comes up and they're interviewing at spring break, and they just put a mic in front of 4 college kids. Name the 3 branches of government.
Isn't that scary? They're college kids. College kids.
Yeah, how about the ones carrying the sign that says from the river to the sea, and they can't name the river?
They're just parroting what they hear. They don't know what they're even talking about. It's crazy. So yeah, I would agree. Maybe there should be some standard that needs to be applied that everybody agrees to, that says, okay, here you have to understand. And it goes back to a lot of the government classes and stuff. They water them down. They find out that it's just not right for certain groups of people, and you can't expect that from them. But I think everybody should have a working knowledge of how government works. A little case in point, go on any of these Facebook groups. That is ignorance displayed every day. They have no idea how government works. They say the most inane things, and it creates a conversation between stupid people. And it's like, that's not how it works, guys. They've never gone to a city council meeting. They don't know who their state rep is. They barely know who the governor is. And it's like, you would think that you would know, if you've lived in a community for any length of time, how this works, but no. So I'm sorry about that.
Well, I remember a time I was on my way to New York City in a car, and I wasn't sure how far away it was, and I had stopped someplace, and I asked the young cashier, "How far is it to the New York City line?" And she said, "Oh, I think the Ben Franklin Bridge is about 8 miles away." I said, "The Ben Franklin Bridge? You mean the George Washington Bridge?" She said, "Well, I knew it was one of those presidents."
Yeah.
Ben Franklin. I think if you're on the Ben Franklin Bridge, you're going into Philadelphia. So you're heading the wrong way.
Oh, there is a Ben Franklin Bridge, huh?
There is a Ben Franklin Bridge.
Oh, I didn't know there was one.
Yeah. There's a Walt Whitman Bridge. It goes from New Jersey to Philadelphia, and the Ben Franklin Bridge is a little farther north. And there's the Commodore Barry Bridge. And I know those because I grew up in that area. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of discussion that can be had about this idea of qualifying voters. I don't know how in the world we would do that in today's political environment.
Well, excuse me, John. I just want to put this into the mix too. The failure of people to be responsible for voters starts, and being a former educator, I'll take responsibility too. It starts in the schools. The curriculum in the schools has moved completely away from responsibility as citizens and citizenship and teaching about it.
Yes.
And therein lies the problem. So in my mind, that 53% of voters says we don't have anyone qualified that really represents us anywhere, because we haven't tended to the number of people voting.
You know, the last two elections, I came very close to not voting because I didn't like either candidate. I've never been a Trump fan, and I'm even less of a Biden fan, but I was also not a Hillary Clinton fan. It's understandable to me why only 53% of registered voters vote. They just don't like either candidate.
But you see, that's not the basis of which they should be making the decision on voting. Not if they were taught how important it is to maintain the Constitution of the United States of America. That's where our failure has been.
I happen to believe that not everyone should vote anyway. I think there must be some kind of a measuring stick for a person to be able to qualify to vote. To Bryan's point, you know, not everybody really is helping the country when they vote for reasons like they like somebody's hair or I mean, really dumb things. I just don't think there should be some kind of a more restrictive qualifying test or something.
We have to make the ability for qualified candidates on the presidential level. Right now, you have to be a multimillionaire. There's all kinds of things that make the common good person unable to actually run for that position. And we've talked many times about campaign finance reform, that without a doubt that needs to be done. We talked about, shortening the term in which, they run for office. My gosh, they get elected and then they start running 4 years ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point that it's ridiculous.
It is.
Oh,
And
I can
this
see.
comes with the way our Constitution is set up, and the need for that is to be able to deal with these situations. And perhaps this is a place where we need another amendment to that Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely is a political class.
Yeah.
And people that come up through that system are usually the ones that are, ensconced in government.
Yes.
They've worked 40 years and this is one thing that has bothered me on both sides. When you're making, I don't know, what's the salary of a senator? 100 and something?
Yeah, it's not huge.
It's not a lot.
175 or more.
For $175,000, and you serve in the Senate for 30 years, and you end up coming out with $28 million, something is wrong with that picture. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Something is wrong. It doesn't take a forensic accountant to figure out that something went along, something was happening on the side. When you have people that go in dirt poor and come out after 15, 20, 25, 30 years, and they are worth a gazillion dollars, something is not right there.
Or
And
they're in a wheelchair that they and are so bad off that they can't even hold their head up, and yet
Yeah.
they're still
Yeah.
rewarded.
Yeah. There's got to be something that can be done to get some of these people. You know, it's unfortunate where we're at right now with the two presidential candidates. I'm not enthused at all. So.
Well, I don't know how you would come up with a way to measure qualifications. I mean, there would be so many opponents to any suggestion like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, folks. It was a nice discussion.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.